If you're getting ready to sell your house, you might be wondering how to sell a house with owner financing. It's a great question, and it's really important to ask if you're thinking about going down this path that you know everything there is to know about getting a deal done with seller financing. Hey there, my name is Mike Fritz. I'm the founder of Titanium Capital Investments and the Multifamily CEO System. My greatest passion is helping investors just like you create financial freedom with multifamily real estate. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 things you need to know if you're going to sell a house on owner financing. It's really important to walk through these 5 steps because if you leave one of the ingredients out, it really could taint the entire meal. But also stick around to the end because I have an invitation for you that'll put you into a group of people that are learning seller financing right now at a very in-depth level. The first thing you want to do is list it yourself. There's a couple different sites I would suggest listing it yourself for a couple reasons. Number one, if you list it with a real estate agent, you're going to have to pay that agent a fee to sell your home. And in seller financing, because when you sell your home, you're only collecting a down payment, you're not collecting all of the money from that project, that can eat up a lot of your down payment by paying the real estate agent. So first, especially in this market, put it out on the market and try to sell it yourself. And I am very, very certain you'll probably have some pretty strong hits that'll be a great option to sell your home without having to pay the fee of an agent. The sites I would encourage you to use are Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, and Redfin. Now, the reason I like these sites is you get to dictate what the property says, you get to dictate the pictures you put up there, you dictate the whole listing. Craigslist may seem a little old school, but I still see deals on Craigslist all the time. I underwrote a deal from one of our coaching clients the other day. They found on Craigslist because there's not one way to find 50 deals. There's 50 ways to find one deal. And buyers that are looking for real estate know that. It's the same for sellers. There's a multiple ways to find deals, so you want to show up in all those places. And if you're not using an agent, you want to leverage all of the places you can list as a seller. So definitely put it on Craigslist. Also put it on Facebook Marketplace. While Facebook Marketplace tends to be mostly places for rent, it's a great place to list seller financing deals because a lot of renters go there looking for property and they might see something that's seller financing. They might be looking, man, I can get this property for $750 a month or this property for $750 a month, but this one I'm actually going to own. So it might be motivating for them to contact you and see if it's a good fit for them to buy your home under a seller financing contract. Another one is Zillow. Now, Zillow is also an MLS site, meaning the MLS listings, people list on Zillow as well. And Zillow is a site that allows you and I to list properties if we'd like. So you can list as many pictures as you want. You can put your description in there, put the address in there so people can look at it, but you can put it in Zillow and you can start to connect with people that may want to buy your house on owner financing. And if on Zillow, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or Redfin, you make sure you put seller financing or land contract, put all those terms in there, you're going to see people call you out of the woodworks. I assure you, this is a powerful way to sell your home, and you won't have to use a real estate agent keeping that money in your pocket. And then Redfin is another site just like Zillow where it certainly does have MLS listings on it, but it also has listings from direct sellers like yourself that are trying to sell their home without paying the means of an agent. The second thing you want to do when you're starting to set up an owner financing contract to sell at owner financing, if somebody does call you off one of those listings, what do? Well, you need to start negotiating through the terms of the deal. And you say, Mike, what are the terms? Well, there's a couple different terms you need to know in order to make a deal happen. The very first one is obviously the sale price. And if you're doing seller financing, you can sell that property a little bit higher because you're taking the place of a bank. You have to see this as a service you're providing to buyers. The truth of the matter is, no matter how much people want to buy a house, if they don't have the credit, they can't do it. But a seller financing allows a way for people to get homes that may not be able to normally get them. So you can bump the price up of your house a little bit above the market value because, number one, most of the time on a seller financing deal, you don't do an appraisal. Well, if you don't do an appraisal, guess what? You don't even know the value, but you can look around in the area, see what properties are going for, sell for a little bit higher of properties just like yours. And if you sell seller financing, it's much more valuable to a buyer. So they'll most likely pay you what you're asking. Second thing is the interest rate. If a bank is charging in the 4-5% range, charge a percent or two above that. Charge 5 or 6 or 7% range. Charge a percent above whatever the bank is charging. At least I would probably go more like 2%. And you can even go higher depending on what kind of property you own and where in the neighborhood it is. Because the truth is, again, you're offering a service and you should be paid for that service. And the interest rate allows you to make money on the equity you have in that home, and that equity can go towards paying for your taxes and paying for the capital gains that you're going to be experiencing as you collect the payments from that project. The third thing is your down payment. What kind of down payment are you going to require to get this deal done? I would always encourage you to do a down payment. You should be doing a down payment for sure. Don't let anybody in there without paying a down payment, because this weeds out buyers that probably can't make the payment anyway. If they come in and they don't have any money to put down on a house, you want to be really careful to have them in your place, because if they don't make the payments, then you're going to have to go through the eviction process to get them out. So always require a down payment. I like the 10 to 20% range. You can charge whatever you're comfortable with, but make sure you understand charging a down payment is a great way to solidify good buyers, but also put some money in your pocket from the get-go. And the fourth thing you need to put in your terms is the amortization. Amortization is simply how long is the loan. If you made every single payment and paid it off, how long does that actually take? Is it 20? Is it 25? Is it 30 years? It's the same if you buy a house at the bank. They're going to amortize that loan. It's going to be a 25-year loan. What does that mean? It means if you made every payment, that's when you'd pay it off. So it's amortized at 25 or 30 years. So as seller financing, I would amortize it at 20 to 30 years. And that's how you can make sure that the payments get into a level that's okay for the buyer. Because the longer the amortization, the lower the payment goes. So if you're at 30 years, because they're paying it off over a longer period of time, the payment will go down. If it's at 25 years, that payment goes up. If it's 20, it goes up even more. And you can play with those numbers to make sure it's a win-win for you and the buyer. But you might be saying, it's amortized over 25 or 30 years. I don't want to wait 25 or 30 years to experience my money. That's okay, because you can put in the contract our next term, which is a balloon payment. A balloon payment means the loan will come due at a certain point that's long before the amortization. So you might set the amortization, say, I'm going to let them make payments as though we're going to pay it off in 30 years, but you need to pay it off in 5 years. So at 5 years, they'll either refinance or they'll sell the property and they'll pay you off. So the thing about a balloon payment is you get to kind of dictate when that property's paid off. It's a powerful thing to have in your contract because it makes sure you don't have to wait so long to get your money if that's your goal. And the last thing you want to have in your terms, nobody likes to talk about, but we need to make sure we know what's going to happen if a delinquency happens. If somebody can't make their payment, what are we going to do? Are we going to give them a late fee, which I would encourage having a pretty stiff late fee, because if you're going to sell your house to somebody, you need to make sure they're making those payments. But also, what happens if they just stop payment? I would say make sure it goes out maybe 60 to 90 days and then start the eviction process. But that needs to be in the contract, because if it's not in the contract, you really can't do that. So put it in the contract, make sure that if they don't pay, you can get them out of your house and you can take the property back, fix it up, whatever you need to do, and sell it off, or whatever your plans are after that. But we need to make sure in the terms we know, what do we do if a delinquency happens? Before we go on to the last two tips, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Join our family of investors that are creating financial freedom. Also, hit that bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video, which is Monday through Friday. But after you've decided all those terms, how do you make sure they're solidified tightly and nicely and neatly in a contract? This is where a good real estate attorney comes in. I would not have a do-it-yourselfer, download offline kind of contract. Because when we usually buy a property through a real estate agent and get a loan for a bank, the real estate agent has a lot of sale documents, and they have documents we sign, and that transfers title, and they have all these documents that come at the sale of a property. Well, when you're selling your property, seller financing, it's not that way. It's a much shorter contract. So how do we make sure that actually takes place? Well, we do that by having an attorney draw up a contract. We're not going to have a PSA, or a purchase and sales agreement. We're just going to have an attorney draw up a real estate contract. We're both going to sign it, and then we can move forward with the deal. Now, often with the real estate contract, the seller is the one who wants to put this together and foot the bill. Because let me tell you, as a seller, you want to make sure you're protected because you're taking on the majority of the risk. So I often will be the one, if I'm selling a property and land contract, I'll be the one that foots the $500 to $700 to $1,000 for the contract, even if the deal doesn't happen, because here's the thing, then I have the contract already made and I can use that for the next sale. But I foot that bill to make sure it's done well and I'm protected in selling my property. The fourth thing you want to do is set up a payment schedule. After you've set up that amortization, set up a payment schedule and make sure you know which day of the month are they paying and what is that exact amount. So you want to set up an amortization schedule or a payment schedule. If they're going to pay this much this month, this much goes to interest, this much goes to principal, and there are amortization calculators all over the internet. You can put in your sale price and your interest rate and your amortization length, and it'll spit out the document of what monthly payment is and how much you should be expecting and how much is going to go to principal and how much is going to go to interest. And the last thing you want to set up as you're setting up seller financing is what to do with the taxes and insurance. As they make the payment, what I would have them do is just like a bank does, escrow those taxes and insurance into the payment. So when they make a payment to you, it is taxes, insurance included. Your insurance company is going to want that seller on there because they still are included in the ownership of that property. But your taxes as well, you want to make sure they're getting paid. By escrowing them both into the payment, you can make those payments, just make sure it all gets paid, just like the bank does. Because for insurance specifically, if they don't pay that insurance, you have more to lose than they do. They have the down payment to lose, and you have all of the equity to lose if that place burns down to the ground and there's no insurance on the property. So you want to make sure the taxes are getting paid and the insurance is getting paid, and by you escrowing it in, it just makes no qualms about it, and you don't ever have to wonder. Now, what really are the pros and cons of selling a house on seller financing? The pros are you get to make more money on interest, you save realtor fees, and you pay less taxes. And the cons are you don't get your money up front for further investing. This will help you understand kind of the ins and outs and which one you should be thinking about doing if you're going to sell your house. But I also want to invite you to join a community and a family of people learning at in-depth levels about seller financing. I put a training together called Seller Financing Secrets. It's a training that's helping people understand the ins and outs of seller financing, how to do it, how to understand it, how to negotiate the terms, and how to even find deals that are seller financing if you're looking to buy more deals. In the description, there's a link called sellerfinancingsecrets.com. Click that link. You'll go straight to a page that'll explain the program, and I would love to have you in as the next student that really starts landing seller financing deals.